quick dad chat.
Oh, hello.
What are your kids like at trying new foods? Like, I mean, every food is new at the moment, I'm guessing.
For Lottie, yeah.
For Lottie.
Yeah, although she's already started to become picky and I'm really worried about it. But then lots of people say, don't be worried about it. Because I want her to eat everything. And we had a stage about when she was about 6 to 9 months where if you ate it, she would eat it. And she was like necking olives and halloumi and all sorts of stuff. And now she just wants to eat baked beans on a jacket potato, tuna and mac and cheese.
Yeah. What about Austin?
There's nothing he doesn't eat. I can't work out if that's... I'm sure it's down to fantastic parenting. But also, I think we got very lucky.
So we've got one of each. Like, Evie will happily try anything. She doesn't like everything, but she'll happily try everything. Whereas Finn is like, I'm set in my ways. I know what I like. I don't need to try anything else.
You've asked this question, not because you want to know the answer, because you've got a story to tell.
This weekend, we had a breakthrough.
Okay.
Oh.
We went to a food festival near us.
Before or after the golf course. I like the fact that you and Finn just out on the golf course.
Yeah. Dad and lad.
Dad and lad,
Yeah.
18 holes.
Did you play
No, we did.
He beat you, didn't he?
We did 20. We did 27 holes because we did the 9-hole 3-part, and then we did the crazy golf, which was 18 holes.
Nice. How's Finn concentrating on such a boring thing to do for so long?
He was my scorekeeper. He wasn't actually playing the
Is the only way, Joe, we can
you're
calculate
taking him
a
as a
win?
caddy?
He was my caddy.
Oh.
But then he did the crazy golf, so he was happy doing that. But we had
a breakthrough.
We went to a food festival at the weekend, and we were like, Finn, you try some new foods. And this festival had like food from every country imaginable. I was shocked.
City.
In Welling.
Yeah, I was surprised. I heard a friend of mine from Welling I saw on Saturday, and he said there was a food festival in Welling Garden City. I said, no way.
We went a couple of years ago, and there were like 5 stalls. Like, as you would expect.
Right, it was 60 odd.
It was massive. Yeah. And anyway, we got Finn to try. Some pork dumplings.
Nice.
Some chicken dumplings. Chicken katsu bao buns. Like, he had an absolute whale of a time.
He's got my palate.
Yeah. Well, yeah, it was just a real breakthrough. Like, it got him to try new foods, and he actually liked them. And I think it was because we said it was homework.
Okay.
So we were taking like loads of photos. He's doing like the journey of food.
Oh, if he likes homework, he's more like Ebbers.
Yeah. Well, I think
Could it also be the fact that you dragged him around a golf course and he's absolutely starving?
This was before the golf course.
Was it before?
This was before the golf course.
But you've gamified it.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, that's
and like trying.
That's how I trick you guys into trying new stuff. Global street food. Put it under a cloche, turn it into a game. That's the only reason you guys try new stuff.
Put a blindfold on.
Yeah.
Yeah, for us, everything's a challenge at home. As in, like, it's a game of some sort. Or it's a job that needs to be done. He doesn't like not finishing jobs.
He doesn't follow after his father like that, does he?
Yeah.
You've never finished a job.
We're a perfect team. I start him, he finishes it. Right, so off the back of our recent kitchen failures, we've got a goldie here. So this is from Michelle. Many years ago, when my now adult children were young, we always held summer barbecues. We would take it in turns with our neighbours. One week we would do the cooking, and the other week they would do the dessert, and then vice versa.
Nice.
This one weekend, we had all been out strawberry picking at the farm, and we had so many strawberries and left over, we thought we could make a strawberry flan.
Classic.
Nice.
Oh, Ebbers likes the sound of that.
It was quite large, and it only just fit on a Tupperware cake turntable. The question was, where do you keep something to keep it cool? And it wouldn't fit in the fridge. So, in my infinite wisdom, I thought the place to be would be the oven, as it was nice and cool and it wasn't being used.
It's just a cupboard at that
Smart.
point. There's a cupboard with shelving.
And
everything was going well. Water fights everyone was having. Everyone was having a great laugh. And then I had a brainwave. What goes well with a barbecue and a salad? Jacket potatoes. So you can see where this is going. I turned on the oven without checking it and forgetting what was in it. After a short while, smoke was seen coming from the kitchen. It was then I remembered the flan.
The flan!
The flan! I switched the oven off and opened the oven door. The smell and the smoke was intense. I could see faces trying to stop themselves laughing, and my mother with the kitchen door wide open and the dustbin lid in her hand. "Put it in here," she called.
I hope it was good wafting.
I went towards the bin holding the metal oven rack with my gloves, a molten hot mess of white Tupperware and strawberries and flan. It went into the metal dustbin, the lid was closed, and we never said a word. Wine glasses were refreshed, the children returned with strawberries and cream for later.
Act 2.
We had a lovely barbecue minus jacket potatoes, and the following day I had the lovely task of cleaning the oven. The day has never been forgotten, and only with good memories. Which is important.
I think that is important because you could go completely sour after that.
Yeah.
Like, it's ruined the day. It's ruined everything.
Pour a glass of wine, crack on.
Go with it.
We have a story.
Cleaning
That's
an
what
oven
matters.
is a minging job anyway.
Yeah.
That is a...
But scraping, chiseling off melted Tupperware.
Which is pretty much where your takeaway story began.
Yeah, but this is more impressive, I think.
A whole flan.
The whole flan. Oh, yeah.
I do love a good flan.
And they made their flan.
A neighbourhood flan. They melted the neighbourhood flan.
So you're talking to Morgan today.
Yes. Dr. Morgaine Gaye.
Sorry, Dr. Morgan.
Food futurologist. And somebody who when you sometimes sit and watch talks, keynotes, presentations, and you might take one or two little sort of sound bites away with you. I couldn't stop scribbling because I listened to her talk and it was just at a different level, like on a different sphere to the rest of us. And I thought, I need more of this.
I want to know the future. Like, that's...
What we're going to be eating in 20 years' time.
How can you be a doctor of the future?
I don't know.
Just tell people.
Yeah, that's it.
Who's going to argue with you?
That is true. That's true. I trust her.
You could say there is no way of proving because it is the future, except
true.
many things she has predicted have come true, and she seems to have quite a knack for it.
Wow. I'm very excited for this.
Yep, so this is our chat, Mike and I having a conversation with Dr. Morgaine Gaye.
Well, we always start with the same question for all of our guests, and that is, what is your perfect hypothetical meal and food situation? We call it quite crudely a foodgasm, but what are you eating? Where are you? What's the situation? What's happened? Who are you with? It can draw upon past experiences. It could be purely the future. Up to you.
So this is definitely hypothetical. It's not something I've not had probably in all of the right component parts, but I think it would be nice if I could see a big nighttime cityscape. Yeah. I like sushi, so I think sushi would be good, but particularly crispy salmon skin.
Wow.
That's my thing. It's my favourite thing.
Just on its own, as a little snackette.
No, not just a little snackette.
A
bowl of crispy.
Of that,
a full-blown snack.
A bowl of that. And I think I like what I like about sushi is that there's lots of options. I don't like a big dinner with like the gravy and the sloppy stuff. I think one of the things I've always felt about British food, and then I saw a comedian from Australia talking about it, and I thought, finally, someone understands. He said, everything in Britain's wet. It's wet food. Yes, because I hate that.
Even desserts are slathered in custard.
It's custard, it's gravy, hate both.
It's not edible until until something's been poured over it.
Even biscuits we want to dunk and make
exactly
them wet.
What he said. Why do they do that? Crispy, lovely biscuit. Then you dip it in your tea. He said, then I heard baked beans. He said, you think, yeah, baked sounds good. Bean, that's good. And then you get it and it's some white minging beans in a sauce. Like, I know, I hate that too. So all of that wet food, don't like wet food, don't like stews, anything wet and sloppy. Sushi, dry, in compartments, it's perfect. So dry, compartmentalised little bits of food on a table. It doesn't all have to be sushi necessarily, but definitely involving a lot of salmon skin looking out onto Manhattan.
Wow.
That's it.
It's really fascinating hearing people's choices, because a lot of them tend to... They don't tend to go super high end or it needs to be fair. They always go for the thing that they love.
Yeah.
And
why wouldn't
it's
you?
fantastic.
Yeah.
It's really interesting. So, I mean, a food futurologist.
Yes.
What is that? Can you explain a little bit about what it is you do?
Yeah, what it is, I suppose it's really obvious, isn't it? Because it's food and it's got the word future in it, and I talk about the future of food. So that's the very abridged version. But I'm really just looking at what we're going to be eating in the future and why. And I think the why for me is more important than the what. The what's the final bit, which is the food bit. but everything else leading up to it. So all of the things that play into the aspirations of what we eat, because I think that we believe that we eat what we like, but we're socialised around food. It's culture, it's beliefs, it's society, it's religion, it's who we hang out with, it's where we grow up, and it's all of the other stories in between. So then what we're going to be eating in the future is often determined by brands and governments and culture. And my job is to look at all of those things that feed into aspirations. So that's design, it's pop culture, film, geopolitics, economics, government incentives, what's happening around the world, what grassroots movements are coming up, all of the things that are going to affect what people are going to be talking about, how people want to express who they think they are to other people, and part of that is through food. So all of that goes forward, and I talk about all of that stuff and do it to speak to brands and companies who make things not always food related but connected to. So it can be airlines, it could be governments, it could be Ministry of Defence, it could be it could also be people that make technology, so Siemens, Sony, Samsung, make fridges, toasters, kettles, or the people that make the food itself, so Cadbury, Nestle, whatever.
So you know what's coming. So if you're listening to this podcast or watching this podcast, you're going to be in a select minority of people who know exactly what the future of food looks like.
And yet, it's not a crystal ball.
No.
It's not a sidekick kind of ability. So what is it? What are you looking at that's giving you that foresight into what's coming next?
Oh, gosh. I mean, I think we met, I don't know if I described myself as this, but this is how I describe myself. Like a whale. Sucking.
I don't recall the analogy.
You don't remember that, no. So I think of myself like a whale sucking krill through its teeth, and I guess it's the little bits that stick, like apple. You know, it sticks in your teeth, and trying to find matching or connecting components. I'm looking for patterns and across category. So I suppose I'm seeing what everybody else sees, but I perhaps read more and explore more, and I'm looking at lots of different avenues where I'm trying to notice a disruptive thing, a pattern, things that stand out really, and trying to spot those across categories and make a scenario, try and prove it or disprove it, and then come up with what I think that means. I wish I could say this in a more scientific way.
No.
But it's
do you have
just,
like an example of something that...
I mean, it's a really bad example, but it's the only one I can think of. Years ago, I remember being on the tube and looking up at people's hands grabbing the pole and noticing that nobody was really wearing a watch anymore. And then it started I began thinking about time and how we have punctuated time, or we did punctuate time with meals. Breakfast, that was very specific. Lunch, very specific. Dinner, very specific. And then how that changed and how we've started to flex time and how time has become more flexible. And then I went down a whole big rabbit hole about lunch being noon and nunch, and then we moved to 2 o'clock-ish, and then now we're just a nation of snacking, and what that's doing to the way that we structure our day and how we are now thinking about, especially now actually since COVID, thinking about how we create meaningful moments in our day, because meal times have gone. And meal times, it used to be the time when people gathered and created story and community in their home is shifted. So, and we see that in things like breakfast cereal. So it's difficult in the UK for breakfast cereals to really get a hold at breakfast, because parents are perhaps trying to get their kids to sit down and have breakfast, but they're not doing it. There was a time when you saw the ads back in the 70s and 80s. Yeah, all sat down, you read the cereal box because you haven't got a phone, and there's nothing on telly because it doesn't even start till noon. You know, it's all of that. So your whole experience is this communal eating and how that shifted. So that was just one example. It started with something very small and then led me to think about lots of things about how we anchor time and around food.
Where do you get how do you go about researching something? So if you spot an anomaly or a new trend, how do you research that? How do you prove your theories or disprove your theories, what sort of data points are you looking at? Is it behaviours? Are they sort of published articles?
It's all of it.
Okay.
And I suppose what I'm looking for are similar similar feelings around different topics. So if I see it in one area, so let's say it's in travel, then I want to see it again in something like government, and then I want to see it again in something like fashion. And once I see it in 3 points that are very different, I think, okay, this is interesting now.
So these aren't things happening in silos necessarily.
No, it's just, and I think rather than data points, because I really feel that data is old news always, and that right now we're in an epidemic of big data, companies buying big data, really terrified of it's just people are terrified right now of everything, and it's a very fearful time for taking risks, so companies don't want to take risks, so they are relying on the big data, which is already old, of course, and we're in some ways already doing that ourselves when we're using things like ChatGPT or any of those kind of services that are already mining, but it's old information.
Yeah.
And so I guess that's why I don't really look at the data. I might look at some different magazines, different articles, but also just everything.
It's more behaviour.
It's all sorts. It's bits of information. It might be, I might hear something on Radio 4, and then the next thing I might hear it on the Tube. And then I'll see something probably in the New Yorker, and then there'll be an article, and just non-related areas just make me think, really. But I think the thing that's been missing out of so many things about, we just don't feel. And it's about feeling, and we don't trust our feeling. And one of the things about the future is that we're not explored in our human selves, so we don't know the power of the human mind. It's where all the neurologists are now looking in this sort of neuroscience, in how our human mind is connected with other humans, and how that's going to be harnessed in the future. When I've done stuff with government agencies, they are looking at that stuff. It's really powerful. We're so busy, tech and computers and stuff that's out there and stuff that feels perhaps more tangible in some way, but we haven't got a clue, this body that we're walking around in. And so that's really what part of that future exploration is. And I think, for me, what I do is trust that little bit of feeling, perhaps more than most people have allowed themselves to do.
I think that's really interesting and exciting as well, because you're kind of, in that sense, grabbing hold of something that hasn't yet formed. I mean, where we met in Gold Food at an Inspire conference in Dubai, and I try and get to those kind of events to look at new startup businesses that have just launched and what are they doing in the world of food that we can bring into the channel and into what we do. But that means they've already worked for months to get to a product. Now, it hasn't hit the market yet necessarily. It might be just startup. So it's still ahead of the curve, and it's really interesting new food conversations. But hearing you speak at that event, you're thinking 3, 5, 10 years ahead of even that. And I think one thing that really sort of landed with me was the conversation you had around hospitality in particular. So perhaps moving outside of what we're eating on a day-to-day basis and at home, but the kind of the restaurants and hotel vibes, and how much of that is reliant on nature. And I wonder if you could just share a bit about that and sort of elaborate around that theme.
Yeah, so what we experienced during COVID 2020, 2021 into 2022, and we still a little bit, is that our lives shut down so much and we stopped human connection, and our lives became two-dimensional, flat screens, Zoom calls, quite isolated. And the only thing that was an antidote for that was nature. It's the thing that was free. We really relished going for a walk, and we suddenly started seeing and noticing trees and realizing, oh look, nature is coming back. Starting seeing wildlife walking down the high street and whatever. And although we should know that we are part of nature, up until that point, for decades, we've sort of thought nature, man. Me, and then I'm on top of nature, I'm in charge of nature. And we realise that it's a real symbiotic relationship. Where we have now gone forward with that is that we want the outside in and the inside out. So the holidays that we want to go on are much more nature-based. We want to bath outside, have outdoor showers. It doesn't need to be such a structured holiday anymore. It's much more about something that feels like a journey and an adventure into the world. And food is exactly the same. We don't want to go to a pristine restaurant with the perfect tablecloth. It needs to feel like there's something natural about it. It doesn't have to be perfect anymore. That's gone. We want it to look like it's crafted from something that's handmade, and that the idea of made by hand will be almost the hashtag on all of our goods, on our food, even on the stuff that we buy in the supermarket. It's going to elevate everything. Made by hand. Suddenly humans had contact with this. It's not just factory made and digitally produced, because now we know that that's sort of 10 a penny. So we're wanting to connect with that natural feeling, and we've come from that sterility, the hand washing and the non-contact. Now we want to have this juicy experience where we want to touch our food, want to get involved in it. It needs to look like it's moss that's growing or something that's been picked off a hedgerow. Not just that, it's been foraged. You know, there's been a little bit of virtue signalling to that over the years, but it has to really feel like there's something deeper than that. And the smaller the footprint, the more local, the more seasonal, and the less choice. All of those things are going to, you know, elevate something and make it feel like it's got meaning, because we desperately want that. You know, money now, you know, you can rent something or hire something if you can't afford to buy it, but having meaning is the thing that's been really missed in our lives, and it's the thing that we crave more than anything. It's human connection, community, love, skin, time, touch, meaning. Yeah. You touched upon restaurants and things like that, and actually, you know, physically feeling the food. Where else sort of can we expect to see the food world moving over the next sort of 2 or 3 years? Is there anything particular that stands out to you as so big,
as noticeable? Yeah.
The big thing's there, protein, because once that conundrum is answered in a way that's financially viable for the masses to be able to eat and buy air protein, which you may or may not know about. So air protein is a protein that is grown from air with microbes, CO2. It's a little bit of tech, but basically can be grown anywhere in the world. And you could order 200 tons, and within 2 hours you'd get it. So you can order mass volumes, and this air protein can then be, it looks almost like a powder, can be turned into chicken, shrimp, and everything in between. And so, of course, it has very, very little requirement for water, or it's almost like the elixir, the amazing elixir for protein in the future, because it's not using beans or livestock food or things that people are allergic to, or, you know, all of the different things that are water dependent. And yeah. So
there's no agriculture required?
No.
And I feel like that is a huge step, a huge leap on from where the conversations were maybe 5-10 years ago around insect protein and the vertical farming and the inputs required to have you know, whole complete protein that comes out of it. That was kind of on everyone's lips maybe 5-10 years ago. We know it's commonplace in, you know, 1 billion people's diets daily anyway. But in terms of the Western world, has that been and gone? Is that still happening? What's happening with insects?
So insect protein, the people that do, I mean, a lot of big insect producers are in the Netherlands, and their sales have gone up year on year, but they're mostly selling for animal feed, which in some ways is great because it stops using things that would be grains or beans that could be used for human consumption. Insect protein can be used for human consumption, but the real tricky part for us, because there's 3,500 different varieties, it's hard to get all of them in the West. But some of them have the same anaphylactic shock as peanuts. So it's hard to know which ones. And then there's the Novel Foods Act in Britain, where you have to, you know, anything that's an unusual food has to be kind of monitored. And how do you go through each particular insect, and how do you know it's not contaminated? And it's tricky. So insects have been tricky. I know there are a couple of fast food brands who've been looking at it for a long time, and there, of course, there are some products like Hopping Good bars in Australia which use crickets, I think, and there is some insect protein stuff. It's also got a slightly distinctive taste. Not, I mean, all different, but there are distinctive tastes with insects, which with air protein, it's nothing.
And insects
more
still
like
have that
tofu.
kind of ick factor of whether people will adopt it,
Totally.
whether consumer will adopt it,
Yeah.
even if it is viable
Yeah.
or sustainable.
That's the difficulty.
Will you get over that?
Yeah, that's the tricky
Air
part.
protein, if you've got chicken air protein, it tastes of chicken.
Yes, a little bit like the things you can do with tofu.
Yeah.
Tofu itself perhaps is slightly tasteless, but you can make it better in a curry,
Okay.
or you can do things with tempeh in a sauce. You can make things better than they are, perhaps on their own. And I think that air protein is almost like just a vehicle for your flavours. It's like Willy Wonka
Wow.
of air protein.
It really is. Do you think there's any risk that this is humankind stretching beyond what is... Obviously, we've always evolved and we've changed, but this kind of fabrication, and there's been lots of conversations around sort of lab-grown meat and insect protein and now the air protein. Is that going to be the future of our food, or actually is that something that will repel and will almost go back to hunter-gatherer man? Like, which way is it going to go, or will it divide?
One of the things that I always think happens with trends is that it's a bit like the pendulum swing. You've got the parallel, so it's the coin. One side, you've got high-tech air protein. Other side, you've got people eating, me, you. We've got a pig called Bacon, and it lives in your garden. And then we've got a really lovely family guy who comes round and slaughters it, we cut it up, and we've got pig for a year, and it's had a lovely life. And that's the flip side. So I think that's what we're more likely to see is people, and people are, they're paying more for good quality meat, but definitely eating less meat in the West. And on the flip side of that, got people who are interested in non-meat meats, but as happened with COVID, all of the different producers jumped on the bandwagon to make those non-meat meats, and then people had time to read the packet and went, what the actual heck is this?
Yeah.
It's got like 500 ingredients and I've got tummy ache. So stopped eating it. And so there's a massive decline at that point in Britain with those non-meat meats, and a lot of those sort of companies that jumped on the bandwagon with all of the Franken ingredients then have subsequently not done so well and gone back to what they were doing before. So there are brands that have been doing non-meat meats for a long time, like Quorn, for example. It's the very, very small ingredient list, pretty much, and have been doing the same thing for decades, and they've continued to do well. So it's not either or, it's both.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's what we see going forward with most things. It's that we're becoming, like I said, more aware of who are we? What does it mean to be human? The biggest question that we take forward into the next 10 years. What does that mean for how do I then fuel this system that I haven't even got a clue what it is yet? So how I fuel this system. And then there'll be people who aren't asking that question and perhaps more interested in, right, I need a hit of caffeine. I know I need some protein. I'm going to get the air protein because I like that and I don't want to hurt animals or whatever. It's better carbon footprint, and make different choices. But both options are there where there's a more tech-involved element, and there's also something that feels much more earthy and perhaps connected to the land.
How have you found your food choices have been influenced by your work and the stuff that you've discovered?
Oh, I never talk about that. So how's it affected? I suppose I know quite a lot about food and the process, but I grew up in that kind of way. My mum was a butcher growing up, so I saw meat butchery firsthand. I saw what that was, and her talking about meat.
Yeah.
And meat being very available at a time when it was actually quite expensive, and a lot of families didn't have abundance of meat. So I didn't particularly like it. I think as it was so available and it seemed like there was no other option. So I started deciding what I thought about food quite young. And my dad had a specific diet because he was a bodybuilder. He was a bodybuilder and a powerlifter. So he had a very specific diet and dietary requirements, and he was much more about the health of things.
Yeah.
So my own feeling about food started really young. And I then ended up living with a family in my early teens who I just thought were incredible, where they were making their own elderflower champagne in bins, garbage, whatever, big bins, and making their own pizzas and stone ground flour, and just really, really earthy people. And I just loved that. I just thought it was fantastic. And that was quite rare then. and I was already a vegetarian by the age of about 12. So I'd already had some quite strong feelings about food, or what I did and didn't like. Never liked milk. I was that child at school that had the letter, Morgaine does not like milk, does not want to drink the
kid.
I didn't like it.
Like when the cartons came,
Because they were always left in the sun. They were it was as
in the
close
bin.
to kefir as we get now.
Oh, it was like yogurt, wasn't it? Oh,
Couldn't drink them.
it smelled fishy to me, which is ironic. but not crispy. I needed it to too runny fish, not good,
enough.
not good. So I don't know how much. I suppose obviously we're all learning about food all the time. Everybody's learning what they like and don't like, but I think that I eat quite simply. I really like eating at home. I like simply prepared home food, and going out to eat, which I know people love to do. I guess because I've done those jobs in the past, it's really stressful. Those people are stressed. Those people that are serving you are stressed. The people in the kitchen are swearing at each other, and it's a stressful environment, and that's all part of that food process. So when it comes out, it's like it's like the gliding swan. It comes out, but that they've.
You're like, this isn't reality. I know what's gone into making this.
There's an illusion there, and I think the food illusion exists in everything. The packaging on the stuff you buy in the supermarket is the illusion. And I suppose because I have been in those boardrooms and I have been in those companies and seen, you put a mountain on it and make it green, you think, oh, it's nature-based. And then you go in the factory, you think there's nothing nature-based about this. And I've been in abattoirs and I've seen that work. And you'd think the most disturbing thing about something like an abattoir would be the meat. But it's the people working in there. They themselves are it's like something... it's inhumane. The work and the way that they are dressed and who they are and the environment is inhumane. And I guess all of that stuff plays into the food that you're eating, because you are eating that stress and that there's something about that. So for me personally, I do go out to eat and I do have those experiences, but generally I like eating at home.
Do you cook a lot then?
Cook every day.
Yeah. What's your favourite thing to cook?
Oh no, I hate cooking. Because I do it doesn't mean to say I like it.
Oh really?
No. If somebody could do it for me in the way that I liked, I'd just have them do it every day.
Yeah.
But I don't like cooking as much as I like chopping. I like to chop. I'm a chopper. So chopping is just the therapeutic chop stuff up.
It's very orderly. And like you mentioned about the sushi being almost segmented portions of food. I feel like that.
Dry, you see, dry.
Dry.
There's no sauces in my cooking.
No.
So I think if there's anything that... it is sort of a running joke when you look in a cake shop window, and I'm sure you've done this with partners or friends or whatever, and you go, right, which one out of all of these would you choose? And everyone's like, oh, I like the one with the strawberries and the cream. And there'll be something really dry looking in the corner. And they'll go, that's the one for you.
Yeah.
Because it's like the rock bun. The one that sort of takes all the moisture out.
Yeah.
That one's for me.
Wow, interesting. I find that association of the importance of people and groups of people and communities and sort of spaces and how much that can influence food as super, super interesting. And yet it's those people that we are constantly listening to all the time in society, whether it be on the news, on TV, and film, radio, social media. It's lots and lots and lots and lots of voices coming from lots of different people, and we all do that our own kind of way, or filter through the krill. But do you think there's a space for how we individually could start to think about the future rather than just panicking about what we're eating tonight and what we're going to buy for the weekend? Is there something that we should be doing to be thinking about the food trends and our food relationship for a few months or years down the line? Or do we leave that to the big businesses that you're working with to kind of steer that?
Never.
It's really difficult because I always try and sort of steer away from trying to tell people what to do. That's why I just like to give people information. And it's the same when I speak to brands. I say, look, here's the information of the future. Generally, they never listen. And that's
because it's risky.
And that's how it is. It's risky, or they typically like to spend loads and loads of money with lots of different people doing, brand design and all of these different things. And then they feel better when they've spent a load of money. And having one person just to say, this is what's coming and this is what it's going to look like anyway. And even if they come round to that, which they sometimes do, it feels better that they spent all the money on the way. So when you tell people this is what you should be doing for the future, I mean, the reality is we are just cave people living in a space age time. This body has not changed that much in thousands of years. And we're living really as a human species in an untenable world for us as a species, which is why we're sicker than ever before. Ultra-processed foods are everywhere. We think that we don't want to have genetically modified stuff, but it's been genetically modified way, way long ago. Rainbow trout, it doesn't exist in nature. Seedless fruit, another one. You know, there's just so many. Bananas, they have to be personally propagated. You know, they don't naturally grow like that, the Cavendish banana. So there's so many foods like that. What can people do in order to think about their future, I suppose, or to think about what the future of their food is? It's finding a way to tune into how can we live in the world that we want to live in. You know, some people don't want to live in the mountains of Wales and farm and live from the land. It's the ideal, but it's not, you know, we've got to live and make a living. And, you know, I live in London, so that's the reality, and travel to countries, and what do you eat when you get there, and how do you live like that? So self-education, and it's not in magazines, and it is not in, you know, flash media stuff, and it is not in the fads, and it's not in the trends, because all of that stuff is trying to gather people in and say, skinny jeans, they're in. No, it's now wide leg, they're in. Yes, crop tops, they're in. No, it's now long and baggy and big. It's just the same thing. Food's exactly the same thing. It's pulling the people into
a moment.
It is, it's a moment, but it feels like the latest thing, and you need to be the latest thing because you want to fit in with your tribe. And what happens if you're a vegan and all of your friends go to McDonald's? You lose your tribe. What happens if all of your family eat one way and you don't? And it's difficult when you're growing up and you're eating differently to your family. You're ostracized. So it's picking your way through it. And I think people are at different stages. Every body is different. Some people do okay on dairy, not many, because after the age of about 4, you know, most of us are lactose intolerant at some level, especially people of colour. Any colour, really impossible for them. But some people do okay. Some people are more sensitive to their health state than others. Most people have subclinical illnesses that they think, oh, well, you know, I've always had a bit of eczema, but never mind. That's usually diet related. You can just mostly fix stuff with your food. Not everything, but you can do okay. It's a personal journey. It's a choice.
Are there sort of broad rules from the information that you've gathered? I'm not saying to directly cure those types of things, but is it things like...
Well, I think it's the thing that everybody knows, isn't it?
Yeah, it is as simple as that.
We've been fortunate enough for so long to live in a world of abundance and choice.
Exactly.
And we've kind of gorged a bit. And actually, maybe it's time to start thinking about how to better use... we spoke before about cuisines and how we pick and choose the best dishes from cuisines all over the world, but if you think about it, it's always the really calorific, rich, celebratory dishes. You know, we think of all the French cuisine and we're taking the croissant and the molten cheese and the fondues and the richness, not the paysanne, the kind of peasantry food that is also in balance with that.
Yes.
And it's about, I guess, that sort of balance throughout.
Yeah, completely. And also just that the availability of packet food now. We used to spend about 80% of our income on food. So we had very little income back, 30 years ago to spend anything else. You couldn't be saving up for months to buy a pair of trainers, or it just wasn't the thing you could just buy at the drop of a hat. So we were spending most of our income on food, and we were spending a part of our day on cooking. And now most people think, I've had a long day at work, I can't be bothered. So I think it's really hard because you don't want to be worthy and say, well, you should cook from scratch. No. But basically, you should cook from scratch.
Yeah, it is the basics.
And it's really hard because we're living in the reality of the world, which is, here, have some of that and have some of that. And it tastes great. And we love that trifecta of fats, sugars and salt. It's really good. And we get addicted to it. And all of the bright colours and the pictures pull you in. And branding and marketing is so powerful. I know, because I work with them.
And we're also working in a place now where I mean, again, speaking from a UK point of view, we haven't for many, many years produced enough food in our country for our population. Why should we? The whole point is we're now a global planet and the food system is much larger. Does that mean that food trends that you're looking at are global, or are there regional food trends that kick off in one country and then proliferate from there? Are there certain nations that feel like they're ahead of the curve?
Yeah, I mean, we are actually a very trend-forward country because we've always spent our time looking out. We're an island nation. We have a history of raping and pillaging. We want other. We're very other-facing. So the US is the opposite, it's inward-facing. They don't travel a lot outside of the US. They're much more interested in what's happening within their own country. The things that are coming out of Asia tend to be the first sort of pioneers of really somewhat gimmicky. Yeah, it's gimmicky, but we like that because we turn it into something else. So it goes perhaps Asia, West Coast US, gets some really cool development stuff happening there, goes East Coast US, then comes to us, and we've got probably Britain. I mean, there are stuff of it. There is other things, coming out from other countries, really interesting stuff in the Netherlands. There's loads of food tech innovation, as you know, in Switzerland and Israel. Loads of things happening there. But generally, we are really faddish in this country, so we're always looking for the next new thing. We're always going to say, oh yeah, have you tried that thing? We want the next thing. And it's how we are with fashion. It's how we are with everything. We're rebellious. We are disloyal to our own cultural history. So we don't really have a lot of cultural sort of anchor points where we still eat the foods that our great-grandparents ate. We just constantly evolving.
Need new.
We need new, yeah. And we're hungry for it. So for brands, we are fabulous hotbed of innovation.
Fascinating.
If I want to be anti-establishment, I just have to eat the same things from the past over and over and over again. Never want anything different. Got it.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, basically, you need to be growing your own food, eating really simply, and buying nothing in a packet.
That's actually great rules to live by.
Not always possible, especially in a city
No.
and busy lifestyles and shift work. But
Yes.
that is the ideal. I think the
It's the
question is
ideal.
how can we all move towards that and
That's the
transition
future.
towards that?
So the future of that, which is the good bit, I think anyway, is that because we are, it brings together lots of strands because food never exists in a vacuum. So it brings together that strand of community. It brings together the fact that during COVID, one of the things that either was our savior or our demise was our tribe. It was your people. So you want toilet roll and garden peas? You can't get them in the supermarket. So has anybody in your group got them in your bubble?
Yeah.
And that tribe, that kind of similar minded thinking, the way in which you want to live, that really will be almost like our saving grace going forward. And those people will not just be friendship group, but will start to be so much more than that. It will be your trusted network, and that trusted network could end up being the people that you grow food with, that you share food with, that you buy food with. So that as the supermarket changes, and we're going to see massive changes in that in the next 5-10 years.
In what way?
It's going to change. It's the way we shop has changed already. That people are not doing the big weekly shop in the same way. It's little things. People are buying stuff. They're disloyal, buying online, getting it delivered. We'll see buying walls. All the digital ways in which we can buy stuff. So if people aren't going to that space, and when they go to that space, it's now the soulless experience. When you think a piece of meat in cellophane with. You could just buy that online. Why isn't it just stocked in a warehouse? Because I don't know the difference between that one and that one. So then what is that space for? It's back to the butcher, the baker, the personal relationships, the artisans, what people really want. People want things that have meaning again, and it's had the human hand in it. So what if we create a collective? Let's say the three of us, we're going to go straight to the farmer to buy crates of apples, and we're going to put them in a cold store, because what we know is that the farmers are being compromised by the supermarkets, and so that we can have we get a better deal. Everybody gets a better deal.
Almost cooperatives in that way.
Exactly. So that we actually start to create buying, living, cooking collectives.
I mean, on paper,
It's perfect.
it's the ideal.
It's the ideal.
Is it a reality? Is it a futuristic dream? I don't know, like how much confidence, obviously you're presenting sort of these observations and dot joining, how much confidence and probability do you have in where this actually goes? Or is it more of just idealistic plotting, and then actually if the idea's on the paper, it kind of happens automatically because that's the path that's been made?
Yeah. The weird thing is that when you sit in the present, we always think that we're adding on a kind of an idea onto the present, which will be the future. So what I mean by that is that in 2019, when I was talking about COVID, and I was saying to people, oh, masks and hazmat suits, and there's going to be this thing, and you're not going to recognise your life, and businesses are going to collapse, and it's all going. And people are sitting there going, yeah, whatever, it's not going to affect me, because you can only be in the time you're in. So that future of these collectives, how will that happen? Because the whole infrastructure that we now know is our present reality will not be there. The infrastructure is peeling away. So systems that we've lived by for hundreds of years will start to disintegrate over the next 5-10 years. So that the banking structure, the way we ownership structure, the government and the governance structure, we're in such an incredible time. From 2020 to 2035, it's like the Industrial Revolution and more. So we're living in a time that will be in the history books that our great-grandchildren will be reading about, going, wow, imagine living then. We can't see it because we're in it, but we already can't really believe what we've already lived through, because it was a bit of a blur. Sort of COVID was like what happened to time? We just condensed time and it all got weird. And we've got something coming in 2025, which is going to have a flavour of 2020. 2026 is good times, so times to sell stock, shares, accommodation, housing. We're going to come to a more of a better time, but lots going to happen. It's really massive stuff going on.
What's the 2025 thing?
I was going to say, what do I need to put in my diary?
What am I doing? What am I cancelling?
Well, the whole culture, cancel culture. Right now we're in a wartime. So 2024, it's rains, it's floods, it's droughts, it's water-based stuff. But it's also wartime, so a lot of stuff until May 2025. And because there's war, there's this massive civil unrest, there's disruption, there's lack of trust. It's almost like a global earthquake. Everything is shaking, the foundations are shaking. And then you think, it's the first time in history we've got so many elections in 1 year in all of the major playing countries. And it's changing, we're all, you only have to look, you think, because you're in the UK and you think, oh my goodness. But then you look at the US and you think, what a choice that is. And then you look at other countries, you go, wow. Once you start to look at every country and you know a little bit about their politics, it's just like you pull back one door and you go, wow, it's worse. And you're like, oh my God. It just gets worse and worse. And it's just because you're going from one thing that hasn't worked, and your other option is the other thing which you know is not going to work.
And what's the reaction with food in mind? Because I think about back to COVID and this sudden stress and huge change, and there was, as a result, a huge rise in nostalgic food and people going back to comfort eating, and brands that have been around, like things like Bird's custard and Ambrosia rice pudding, had their biggest years ever because people just went back to nostalgia and comfort and trust in something that had never changed. Is there similar things that you think we might see within the food sphere?
Yes, right now we're in that. We're absolutely in a nostalgic time. One of the other things that we're really interested in is this sort of romanticism. And so we're going back to Victorian times. There's a lot of lace, the kind of almost decorative ornamental food. And we're wanting to have the romantic moments of the everyday because, like I said, we're trying to punctuate this day now, which for a lot of people is this free-flowing time thing when they're working from home and can't really structure anything or anchor anything.
There's no segmentation, is there?
And so how can we find something meaningful? And there's like this romantic ideal because what they're presented with is not very romantic or ideal. And so there is that part of nostalgia. And there's also that, there's going to be different nostalgias coming through. We've seen a bit of 90s, we've seen a bit of 70s, there'll be a bit of 80s. It's all coming back just because anything but now.
Yeah.
Anything but now.
Am I right in saying that you're a super taster?
That is true.
This is fascinating for me. I think we should make a documentary on it because I think it's absolutely incredible. Can you just explain what that means?
Yeah, well, I'm a super smeller, actually.
You're a super smeller.
I'm a super smeller. So smell is my thing. Smell is my real thing.
Okay.
Yeah, and so during COVID, I lost my taste and smell for 18 months. And, it was the weirdest experience I've ever had. And it changed my taste. And it's never gone back.
Really? In what way?
So I got really into red onions. And they tasted like oranges. And I still am really into red onions. They don't taste like oranges anymore, but I really like them. And I used to love coriander, and now I'm one of those people that doesn't like it.
It tastes
so
soapy,
much.
does it?
Interesting.
Not
No,
soapy, but something. So when they rewired, they didn't all join this in the same way.
18 months without smell and taste.
Incredible.
To lose that connection with food and our own fuel and our own, whether it's, I suppose maybe that's the crispy. At least you've still got the crispy salmon skin, even if you can't taste it.
It was all about texture. It was.
I remember the
all
highlight
about
of
texture.
I had it for just 10 days, nothing like 18 months.
But you'll know.
But the highlight of the day was mouthwash, because it was cooling.
Oh.
Chili kind of went into everything, and because it was a sensation rather than a taste, and I couldn't tell you whether I was eating porridge or risotto, like sweet or savoury or rice pudding.
Mentally, you know, don't you?
Because I just couldn't taste it.
Yeah, it's incredible. I was burning. For me, it wasn't as much about the food as it was about living, because I realised I used my smell to navigate the world. So, is it cooked? Is it burning? Where's it come from? Is the kettle boiled? I found that really. My friend had the same, and it's never come back for her, which is she's used to it now. It's terrible because she was older, and I just think they just didn't repair in the same way.
Didn't rewire.
Yeah.
And so was that only a post-COVID thing?
Yeah.
So now
It's all back to normal now.
it is.
Yeah.
So in terms of, how do you know that you have an intense sense of smell or aroma? Like how do you know that that's heightened in comparison to others?
I think one of the things that somebody said you should do for a job is the thing that you find so easy that you don't think it's a thing you can do. And that's why you don't know if you can smell everything that you can smell, because you think everybody can smell that. So when people have run past me on the towpath or whatever, I can smell their diet. If they have a lot of cheese, I can definitely smell that. I can smell anybody who eats a lot of cheese. Like Asian people can smell Westerners who eat too much dairy.
Yeah,
so I can
we smell sour.
Yeah, cheesy.
Yeah.
I can smell that. But I have in the past.
Oh
I'm
no!
suddenly
What
very
do I
conscious.
smell of?
We had a cheese and charcuterie board for lunch. I'm suddenly very conscious.
Yeah, but now I'm like, what do I smell of?
I had a boyfriend, and he used to come. It's in New York, and he didn't live with me. And when he used to come over, I used to smell his cheek, and I could tell him what he'd had for dinner the night before.
Oh my goodness!
I could just smell
Through
it
his pores?
Through his pores, yeah. The night before, so that was a day ago. I could say, "Oh, you had lamb chops last night," or I could tell what he'd had to eat.
That's remarkable. So not only can you see the future, you can also see
Smell
and
the
smell
past.
the past.
It's like, I mean, obviously dogs are incredible, but this is just a little heightened sense of it. And my auntie, who was deaf, she could, because that was obviously when you lose one sense, you heighten another, and she had incredible sense of smell. So I think it's just some things you develop more than you develop other things.
So, but I guess the assumption is, knowing that taste is 80% aroma, that you would taste food more intensely as a result. But that's not the case.
Well, maybe it's why I like plain stuff, because it's already flavour for me. When I have a salad, I don't use dressing. I don't want a vinaigrette or anything. It's too much for me.
Wow.
I don't need lettuce is plenty flavoursome for me. I don't need all of that stuff. So maybe when I do go out to eat, it's too flavoured.
And there's too many different dishes across the whole menu being prepared in the same room, and it's just a cacophony of intense
Yeah,
smell.
no wonder.
So I just like the plain stuff. It's probably why I just like plain stuff. I don't salt it.
I mean, it's mind-blowing, absolutely mind-blowing.
See, that's why I want to do a documentary on it.
I just think, like I said, going back to what I do for a job, I just think I'm sensitive. And so it's
hyper aware of that as well.
Yeah, and over time, I think, like I said, it's about how to fine-tune that, how to make a job out of it.
Did the job pre-exist? I mean, you've been doing it for a few years, and I feel like it's a relatively new, and there's now a few people on the scene across the world, a few handfuls of people, it's not many, who are food futurologists.
Yeah.
Did it exist? How did you sort of begin to forge that and begin finding your own clients?
So oh my goodness, I didn't know of any And I did not make up that title. It was made up for me by my school friend, who I'm still friends with and sometimes do stuff with. So I'd worked on and off in film, and I'd done different things on TV as a teenager and young adult and in different countries in the world. And she was making a program for BBC World Service called Business 2025. It's very futuristic, let me tell you. It was way out there. And she had eminent people in science and business to talk about 5 things that were predicted for the future. One was electric cars. The other was some kind of printing process. Another was like integrative sport, and the way you could put brands into sport. I mean, it is a long time ago. And she said, we need another person. Will you do it? And I said, what, tomorrow? I mean, like, I'm up against the guy from some tech brand and like all grown-up men, and I was definitely felt like a teenager myself. She said, oh, you'll be fine, you'll be fine. Gave me the 5 topics. I'm like, oh my God, what am I going to do? I mean, I didn't even have a computer. I think I had a computer, but it was like dial-up. And so I said, yeah, okay. And she just put the title underneath. She just made it up.
and here you are.
And just out of interest, I was the only person that predicted the things correctly in hindsight.
What did you predict?
Well, they said electric cars, give up. Nobody would be like a milk float. No one will drive those. And I was like,
nailed it.
Of course you're going to be driving. Yeah, I totally will be in one of those.
That is amazing. This has been incredible. But before we wrap it up, one final foodie question we ask everybody. Yes. We got tons of people watching and listening. What is the one thing that you would say everybody has to cook or eat before they die? So not your perfect foodgasm, but something that everyone at home should try and cook.
This is nobody's perfect foodgasm, but I still think that they should do it, and because it's really simple, and there's no excuse to not do it. And I wrote a little book that some call a pamphlet, and in there I've put a recipe at the end of each chapter. Not recipes that you're going to wow your friends with, but recipes that are things to play with food. And this was one of the things that I discovered when I was working on some food development stuff years ago with this wonderful woman who developed the McFlurry for McDonald's, but it was originally called the McSlurry when she did it.
Ooh, that's good.
McFlurry changed the name because it sounded better. But anyway, she's amazing. She's retired now. And the thing that we did, and it was mind-blowing, is that we thinly sliced marzipan. And people who don't like marzipan, this is perfect for them, because you thinly slice marzipan and you fry it. I know.
Does it go crispy?
It not only goes crispy, it becomes cheese.
What?
It tastes like cheese.
Which is just pounded almonds, right?
It tastes like crispy, sweet parmesan. Huh. It's amazing. So if you don't like marzipan, you'll like this. If you don't like cheese, you still might like this because it's a bit cheesy, but it's sweet and it's crispy. And it's just a bizarre thing to do. Why would you do it? But now, why wouldn't you do it? Because it's so simple.
I feel like now everyone is going to be trying it, including me, the moment we put these microphones down.
Yeah, I want to taste it.
So I thought I was like, that's the thing with food. We only kind of do what we think you do with the thing.
What we already know.
Yeah, and it's time to... And we did all sorts of other things which were really cool. Also, some of the things I put in the book. One of which I made for an Australian TV breakfast television, which was filmed right down the road from here, but for Australia, with a hairdryer. So I ate this thing, which was an ice cream, had the hairdryer on the whole time, bad telly. Hello, but it's not melting, and it's a non-drip ice cream. And then I got contacted by brands in Australia going, can you come and make this ice cream for Australia because it will never melt, 40-degree heat, but it's like an ice cream. So we made lots of different things. I can't tell you that. I had to kill you.
Was it in the Museum of Ice Cream in London for a while?
I don't know, but it was in Mrs. Beaton's cookbook. It's where it comes from.
We've got that.
You've got it. Have you really?
Got it. We've got that book. We cook from it on the show.
It's in the book.
Right.
And there we go. The future of food is potentially somewhere in the past. Yeah.
The end.
Morgaine, thank you so much for being with us.